welcome or welcome back to my channel. For this video, I thought it might be kind of fun to try something new. I mentioned in my November TBR after pulling 2 books that it would be kind of fun to do a this or that sort of thing, where I take 2 books who are similar, maybe in terms of premise or tropes or basis, and compare them and see if I like one more, if I like both of them very much, if it's a new trope, it's just not for me. So, with that being said, I am going to be reading the 2 books in this video that kind of inspired this whole idea in the first place. So, the first book is Never Ever After by Sue-Lin Tan. This is her latest release and was also one of FairyLoot's October books. And it is supposed to be kind of a cross between a Cinderella-inspired tale and, of course, Chinese folklore. So I thought that that would be fun. And then we have A Forgery of Fate by Elizabeth Lim. This is meant to be a sort of Beauty and the Beast inspired tale alongside, of course, Chinese folklore. So I thought it would be kind of fun to see which like Eurocentric fairy tale blends best with Chinese folklore from 2 authors that I've like truly loved in the past. So I do not know. Actually, I might start with, I think, A Forgery of Fate, just because it's kind of a chunkier one. Just kind of get it out of the way. But the whole idea, I guess, is to let you know which one I like better. All right, so I'm just around the halfway mark for A Forgery of Fate, so it is time for our midway check-in. I do have to say, before I get into the inside of this book, the outside. I know I waxed poetic about how gorgeous I thought this naked hardback was when I did the like unboxing for this, but so pretty, so pretty. I will never get over how pretty I think this is. And also, can I just say the end papers? The end papers, people. Okay. I will say the only thing that like bothers me about this edition is I kind of wish that they had inverted the colors on the sprayed edges on the like broad side. Just because with the sprayed edges on the top and the bottom being like a darker blue, this doesn't feel like it particularly goes. I mean, kind of maybe with the back, but not really with the front. I don't know. That's just me. That's a personal preference. Just the graphic designer in me is falling a little bit, but that's besides the point. So the inside of this book, this follows True. She is the oldest of 3 sisters. Her family isn't like the wealthiest growing up, but they're doing all right for themselves until a point when she is, I think she's like 8, 10, 12, somewhere in there. Her father goes on a voyage. He's a merchant. He takes this voyage thinking that it's going to make their family's fortune, and he disappears. And we fast forward like 5 years, and her family has kind of been eking out an existence just by themselves. Her mom has kind of developed a gambling habit because she believes that she can read fates. And so she's gambling in the hopes that the fates will be kind to her and she'll make money and they can then leave and hunt for True's father. And that just kind of hasn't worked out. So instead, the 2 oldest girls have been kind of putting together their best effort to basically make enough money to get out of where they grew up in order to hunt for their dad. But things go sideways. True has been forging paintings, not necessarily copying like existing works, but creating works for recently deceased young artists who are like not super famous, so the paintings don't garner a ton of attention, but famous enough that they do garner enough attention that somebody would be interested in, obtaining a long lost piece, so to speak. So she's been running this scam where she's been copying these artists' styles, and then she and a friend have been auctioning them off. And that is her family's main source of income at this point. And we come to find out that while she is a pretty gifted forger, she also does, in fact, paint original works, but like kind of sort of. She is able to see into her own future, and so she can paint her future essentially. So they're original, but they're like scenes that of stuff that might happen in like 3 days, 5 days a week, whatever. So she doesn't indulge in that very much, and she kind of keeps it a secret from her family, especially her mom. Her mom is, well, she's not the worst fictional parent I've ever read. She does kind of suck a little bit. She's very money obsessed. She is very focused on her daughters getting married. She keeps gambling to the point where she risks one of her daughters being sold into prostitution, which is wild. But she's not like ill-intended per se. But essentially, True's forging brings her to the attention of the Dragon Prince, and he offers her a deal. He wants her to apply her forgery skills on his behalf, and in exchange, he will kind of take care of her family, protect her family from kind of the mess that their mom has gotten them into, and also like house them, clothe them, get them lessons, all of that stuff. The one caveat to all of this, besides obviously True has to fulfill her end of the bargain, is she has to marry him. So he is a half-human grandson of the Dragon King, and I believe we've actually met him in one of Elizabeth Lynn's previous works. I might have to go back and look because the name sounds really familiar. So I had to take a quick pause there to go and check my shelves, and he did in fact come up in a previous work. So good on me for remembering that. I'm rather proud of myself. But essentially, Ilang is kind of trying to break the curse of his existence almost. So in order for him to do so, he needs to find his heavenly match, and he decides to have True pose as his heavenly match in order for her to be allowed into the dragon realm. So that's kind of why we get our little sham marriage in this book, which I thoroughly enjoy. There has not been like a ton of yearning and tension at this point. I will say there have been moments where True has gotten on my nerves ever so slightly. She kind of refers to him as like very monstrous, and I realize that he's like literally physically half human, half dragon. But and maybe I'm not kind of like processing how horrifying that would be to be confronted with. But she kind of treats him as if he's a monster from the beginning, even though his behavior hasn't necessarily lined up with that. And that just kind of rankles me a little bit, especially because she's kind of shunned by the kind of general public for her father's heritage, essentially. He is Ballardian, and they have very dark blue hair, and her hair turns dark blue when she's like 10. And it ends up with her being kind of shunned because her father's people are kind of viewed as pirates, bandits, thieves, whatever. So it kind of bothers me that she is often on the crap end of prejudice, and she then is prejudiced against Ilang for him being a half dragon, half human. And that, like I said, maybe I'm not grasping how horrifying that would be to see, but it's just like, you hypocrite. You bloody hypocrite. So anyway, I would love a little more yearning, a little bit more tension. I have a sneaking suspicion that we're getting a little bit of hidden identity in this book. It hasn't come out yet, but I'm suspecting that somebody has been present in somebody else's life sooner, earlier than in the timeline than said person thinks. So I'm waiting to see if that kind of comes out. There's also a water demon named Shani who has been kind of helping Ilang and escorting True and kind of helping her adapt to the dragon realm. And to be honest, she's hella suspicious. She is so suspicious. I'm kind of hoping that this is a case where like it's a double cross, but who knows? But it's just the captain of the guard has like questioned her solely on the grounds of her being a demon, which is very prejudicial. I know I was just raging against that. But if you know anything about the demons that Elizabeth Lynn writes in her books, it's not far-fetched to think that she might not be all that she seems to be. So I'm just kind of waiting it out to see, but I have some suspicions about that. I am truly enjoying Milo. She is great. She's a turtle that helps run Elang's castle. So I am enjoying this. I will say this is not a 5-star read. I'm enjoying it, but it's feeling like a story that won't stick with me after I finish reading it. I've enjoyed everything in this world. This is in the same world as Six Crimson Cranes, obviously, because I said Elang shows up in that book, but it's also in the same world as Spin the Dusk and Unravel the Dawn, which I enjoyed immensely. But it's kind of feeling like a lot of other Elizabeth Lynn books where it's like a 4-star read and like the broad details stick with me, but it's not like tugging on my heart. So we'll see if that changes, but honestly, I don't think it will. From here, I know it looks like it's dark outside, and it is dark outside. But it's not late in the evening, so I think I'm going to change and head to the gym. And I have the audiobook for this on Everand, which, by the way, if you have any interest in listening to audiobooks over physical copies, the audiobook for this was great. I listened to it on my walk back to my car from work. I work somewhere where you cannot park close, or you can pay for the privilege to park closer, but I am cheap and I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to pay $60 a month to still have to walk 10 minutes into work. So I just kind of suffer a 20-minute walk back to my car, which is hilarious because it takes me less time to get home. It's just absurdity. Anyway, I have been listening to the audiobook kind of in fits and spurts, and I've truly been enjoying it. So what I think I'm going to do is I have a 15K that I need to run, a 15K race that I'm running in less than a week. And so I'm kind of in my heater out before my rest days. And so today is one of my last practice runs. And I think I'm going to listen to hopefully the end of this on audiobook. I might kind of perfectly time it so that I'm kind of getting up to the epilogue in the audiobook right when I'm finishing my run, like kind of time the epic ending with the ending of my run. We'll see if I succeed, but I think that there will probably be no B-roll. I'll just check back in with you when I'm all sweaty and gross. So who knows, but I will catch you later. This is objectionable. I hate this. I hate daylight savings time. I did finish A Forgery of Fate. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I just have to say, it is barely 5:30. Barely. And it is dark outside. Now, granted, it was a very gloomy day, so it was kind of anticipated that we would lose light pretty quickly. But it's dark. It's 5:30. What the hell? I mean, I get it, and I appreciate the fact that I got an extra hour of sleep out of daylight savings time. But I am someone who falls victim to the winter blues. I hate the lack of light that happens at the end of the year. It's objectionable. It's objectionable. And I was hoping that this clip would have natural light because I'm going to sit down tonight and finish Never Ever After, which means the rest of this video is just going to be by lamplight, I suppose, which annoys the ever-loving crap out of me, but it is what it is. But I just want you guys to know, I don't like daylight savings time. I don't understand it. I mean, I do. I get the history. I get the whole farming community thing, but I like my natural light. And I get up so early for work that it's going to be dark when I leave no matter what. So it's not like that benefited me on the other end of things. Anyway, okay. I need to step down off my soapbox and address what we're all here for, which is the books. Okay. I have finished A Forgery of Fate by Elizabeth Lynn. And I have thoughts. I have feelings. I think this is going to be a 3.5, 4-star. And here's why. I enjoyed it very much so. I really liked the plot and the settings. I, however, was not sold on the romance. And here's the thing. I know I said in the halfway check-in that I enjoyed the banter, which I did, but I just didn't. And I wanted them to be happy. I was rooting for them to be happy. And I like them as individuals, but I just was not emotionally invested in the relationship whatsoever. I'm not going to be thinking about their romance a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. I'm just not. And I'm wondering if it's because they leaned pretty hard into the beauty slash beast dynamic. So this is inspired by the Beauty and the Beast. And I just think that they kind of leaned pretty hard into that, especially where Elang's character is concerned, or Mei Li's character is concerned. And I just don't think that the two of them carried that dynamic very well. There are other elements of the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale in this book, and I thought that we would stick to it a bit more closely, because one of the first things that happens in the book is True's father goes missing, presumed dead, but suspected potentially alive. And so I kind of thought, I was like, oh, this is going to follow this very closely. And then it just kind of didn't. I think the real inspiration was the dynamic between our two leads, which, like I said, I think that just fell a little flat for me. I did enjoy the plot. I think that True's magic is actually really unique as far as like other magical powers and magic systems that I have read in the past. As I said before, she can paint her own future, but she kind of learns to not necessarily control it, but guide it. And in doing so, kind of manages to influence the plotline of the book. And I think that is really, really cool. I don't know. I guess the best way to say was I liked the book in the sense of like, there were all the elements and ingredients for me to really love this, but I just didn't care. Like, it just fell flat. Like, I saw the twists coming. I saw the hidden identities coming. Nothing was really too much of a surprise. When things went sideways for the characters in the last 100 pages, I wasn't really necessarily worried about them. Granted, I realize that that's because I don't think Elizabeth Lim, for the most part, writes very sad endings. And it's, meant to be a romantasy. They're meant to be together in the end, yada, yada, yada. I just couldn't bring myself to care all that much. And I don't know why. I don't know if maybe I was unfair to this book and I read it at the wrong time, or if that's just really how I feel. And I think one of the reasons I'm waffling so much is I really do enjoy Elizabeth Lim's work. But I'm wondering if I have a special affinity for Spin the Dawn and Unravel the Dusk. Because I felt I liked Six Crimson Cranes, but it wasn't like 5-star God tier. Like the Spin the Dawn, Unravel the Dusk series duology, that's a 5-star read for me. The Six Crimson Cranes duology, that's a 4-star read. I just think that this may be maybe a one-off in her backlog, because I did enjoy the rest of her books. I just didn't love them. But I don't know. I have had a lot of time to think about how I feel about this book, and I think I'm still on some level a little bit baffled. And maybe that's just because I went into it with such high expectations and they were just kind of disappointed. But like I said, I did enjoy it. I just don't think it's going to stick with me. Like, let's put it this way. If I had borrowed this from the library and read it, I would have enjoyed it, and then I would have not thought twice about it. I would have not gone out of my way to buy myself a copy or anything like that. So I'm not mad that I own a special edition of it, especially one that's this pretty, because I do like her books and I have all of her books so far. So I'm not really mad about it, but I am starting to question my love for her books a little bit. Not that they, like I said, not that this was bad, but I've kind of lauded how much I enjoy her writing, and now I'm wondering if I have overhyped her for myself a little bit. So I am well over halfway through Never Ever After by Sue Lynn Tan. As you probably can guess, I am quite enjoying this, which is why I am basically like 2/3 of the way through the book and still haven't talked to you about it. But I will say, before we keep going, I have never shot a clip in my library room / office space with the overhead light on, and I'm sure the lighting is atrocious, and I'm so sorry. But while it is like mid-afternoon here, it is dark outside. It is precipitating. And it is dark. And so I figured rather than like trying to lighten the clip and post edit, we would see if the overhead lighting was not too bad. So if I have to kind of adjust it in the moment, I will do my best to. But if that doesn't quite work out, I'm so sorry for the lighting in this clip. But anyway, before I dive into why I am enjoying this book so much, I would like to say it's been a couple days since I finished A Forgery of Fate, and my thoughts on that book have kind of solidified. So I will do kind of an update when I like do the conclusion clip of this video on kind of my final thoughts and feelings. But I've had a couple days to sit and think about it, and I think that my love for like Elizabeth Lim in general is kind of clouding my true feelings for the book. So that kind of gives you a hint of where I am currently standing with that book. I don't know what will, but this book, I am having the time of my life. I will say that I kind of struggled through the first 100 pages. In this book's defense, I don't think it's this book's fault. It's very quickly paced. We like dive right into the plot. There's really no points where it drags for the most part. I just think that I picked it up late at night. Like I said in my last clip, my plan was to pick it up that night and finish it. And I picked it up and fell asleep reading it. I got like 70-ish pages in and just conked right out. So nothing against this book. I just think I was way too tired to be attempting to read 360 odd pages at that point. But this book follows Yining. She is our female lead. She was adopted by her aunt and uncle at a fairly young age, and when she was very little, her aunt ends up passing away as well, and her uncle remarries to a woman who is not the warmest. And then her uncle passes away, and she's left solely in the care of her step aunt, and her step aunt is abusive. There's no way to like cut around that. Her step aunt is horrific. Physical abuse, verbal abuse. She basically trains Yining to tell fake fortunes while she not shoplifts, but pickpockets people in the markets. And so we start this book with Yining ending up meeting a kind of magical creature, and the creature bestows upon her a gift. And she's now told that this ring is going to be tied to her life force, so she better not ever lose it. And she pretty much loses it immediately. Her aunt takes it off her as part of a punishment, and she ends up following her aunt to the royal palace during a ball in an effort to get the ring back, because she's told her life now depends on the fate of this ring. And while she is at the palace, she ends up meeting the prince, which is, I think, the Cinderella inspiration really comes in at the beginning of the book, and then we kind of diverge pretty quickly afterwards. I haven't felt that we were continuing to follow the fairy tale very closely, but I did kind of enjoy the initial flavoring of Cinderella, even though that's not my favorite fairy tale, but that's neither here nor there. But she ends up meeting the prince and becoming his guest, so to speak. And he takes quite an interest in her. Initially it's a fairly welcome interest. She feels that he's very warm and caring. And then the mask kind of starts to slip, and she starts kind of questioning the people she put her trust in. And while she is a guest of the court, she meets a character named Jin. He is an advisor to a foreign monarch, and she ends up owing him a favor or two, and he decides to call them in at very inconvenient times. But there's kind of sort of a love triangle going on, or at least there was in the beginning when Yining was feeling more positively towards her stay at the palace. She seems very interested in the prince, but then she also seems to have this attraction to Jin. I do suspect that, as with many a tale, everybody is not who they say they are. But I do quite like where this is going. I am not particularly invested in the romance whatsoever between her and the prince, or her and Jin. I don't really care all that much. Maybe I'll care later on, but we're 2/3 of the way through it and I don't really care, even though there's now a clear front runner between the two of them at this point. I am thoroughly enjoying the plot, though. I am very invested in this world. I'm very invested in our trial and our quest and our betrayals and our hidden identities. And this is excellent. So far I am enjoying it, and I will catch up with you when I am done. So I finished Never Ever After last night. Can you imagine my surprise when I found out by the ending that this is not a standalone? This is the first in the series. Am I mad about that? No. Do I feel like it makes it a little bit unfair to A Forgery of Fate because this is a standalone? Yes, absolutely. Do I need to do my research better if I do one of these again? Yes, absolutely. But this book, I have to say, I think this may be my favorite Sue handbook. I do realize that I read Daughter of the Moon Goddess and Heart of the Sun Warrior and Tales of the Celestial Kingdom all before I had this channel. And then I read Immortal like way back when it first came out on this channel. And I think I might have given that a 5 stars. I think it might have been a 5-star of the moment because I remember very little about that book now, but this book is going to stick with me. First of all, I think she did a wonderful job integrating Cinderella into this story. I felt like the beginning was very Cinderella-esque, but still holding on to like elements of like Asian folklore and history and everything like that. And then we kind of transitioned into a storyline onto it itself. So I thoroughly enjoyed the incorporation, which, as I said in my halfway check-in, I was kind of surprised by because Cinderella is not my favorite fairy tale by any stretch of the imagination. I liked this. The plot was great. I think the biggest thing that I loved was actually our female lead. I appreciated the fact that she was like very self-sufficient and like she had definitely been let down by the world over and over and over again, but she didn't like harden herself per se. Like she was very determined to survive whatever came her way, but she was not like mean or cruel or like throwing other people under the bus in her attempts to like secure her life and her position in the world. And I greatly appreciate that. I love a woman with a spine, but I do not enjoy somebody who kind of sacrifices others to get where she wants to go. So I was entirely sold on Yining. I really, really, like I said, enjoyed the plot. I really liked the fact that we got more of Yining's history the further into the book we got. You know, we kind of just are told, oh, she's an orphan, and that's it. And then you get hints that there's more to her backstory and more to her backstory. And then, like, we finally get her whole entire backstory about 2/3 of the way through the book, a quarter of the way through the book. And I chef's kiss, loved it. I didn't feel like it came out of nowhere. I felt like we did a really good job building to that. And I did come to enjoy the romance between her and the person that appears to be at the lead of the love triangle. Are they my favorite fantasy romance couple? No, but like I do enjoy it between the two of them, and it's kind of funny. Their banter is quite good, like not in like the not top tier god tier banter, but like it's funny that he seemed to bring out the worst in her in some ways. Like she sniped at him quite a bit, and I quite appreciate that. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. So if you are kind of looking for a new series to pick up, obviously we're one book in. I think when I checked her Instagram that she is midway through writing the sequel, has written the sequel, something like that. So she seems to put out a book like every 8 months or so. So I'm hoping that we'll get the sequel to this soon. I'm also hoping it will be a duology like her other books, because I don't want to wait 5 years and a day for like 5 books. I want to know what happens in like to our characters in this world, to this world. I am very excited. So that is where we stand here. I think I'm going to give this book, I think I'm going to give this book 4. I'm like in between 4 to 4.5. I think I'm going to give this book a 4. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I realize I might have rated it lower than I did Immortal, but I also think that the longer I have this channel, the less arbitrary I am. Like the more I like actually consider ratings, and also the stricter I am with them. So I'm going to give this a 4. And that leads us to which one I preferred. I think you guys can tell, but I prefer Never Ever After to A Forgery of Fate. And here's the thing. I think this is a solidly 3-star read. I know when we were talking about it previously, I was considering a higher rating. I've had time to think about it. It's actually been a week since I started this video, which was not the goal, but life happens. Speaking of that race that I told you guys I was training for earlier in the video, I ran it and it was miserable. It was like snowing, it was sleeting, it was like 18 with the wind chill. I had to run through a puddle when I got boxed in at the beginning of the race, like at the chute. I'll insert a picture here of what my like below the knee looked like after the race. I am happy that I did it. I run the race every year with my mom. It's a tradition, and the proceeds of the race go to charity. So I'm not mad about it, but I was just like, dang, this is the worst weather we have ever had. But anyway, I have had a lot of time to think about this book, and I do think that my opinion was colored by my love for Elizabeth Lim, and most specifically her Spin the Dawn and Unravel the Dusks duology. This book was good, but it was not great. And will I ever probably reread it? No. And I think that's the biggest reason why I'm giving it 3 stars is I have zero urge to ever pick it up again. I'm going to keep it. I highly doubt I'm going to unhaul it because, as I've said before many a time, the naked hardback is gorgeous. And when I have more shelf space, I will absolutely display it. Plus, I own the rest of her backlist, and so I feel some type of way about not having all of her books. But I'm kind of neutral on the book. Like, I enjoyed it. It was a good time while I read it, but it's not going to stick with me. And I don't want to reread it either. So between our 2 Eurocentric fairy tales mixed with Asian folklore, I'm going to give it to Never Ever After. Although, like I said previously, this is somewhat skewed because this is the beginning of a series and this was a standalone. But if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to stick around, please subscribe. Either way, I greatly appreciate you joining me. Have a good one. Bye.